What's up, everybody? And today we're gonna go solo dolo for this. I know I'm a little bit late, but welcome to the AEW New Japan Forbidden Door review. Obviously, it's a lot going on right now in the world of wrestling. I'm sure everybody's mostly talking about the Raja Rampage incident, which I'll probably discuss that another time in a separate video. But there is a lot to say about that. But let's get into this pay-per-view. London, England. Obviously, it started earlier in the day. I think about 11:30 my time, if you actually count the pre-show. But the main show started at about 12 o'clock. I do have a lot to say about this show. I feel like the main things you're probably gonna hear me talk about is the lack of build going into this, and I really mean there was really a lack of build into this, or even just the Forbidden Door concept anymore when it comes to AEW New Japan, especially New Japan's part in all of this, really. So I know I may be repeating myself in a lot of these matches, but I'm just saying it right off the bat because these are mostly the main topics I'm going to be talking about when discussing a lot of these matches. So let's get right into it. Now, I did watch the pre-show, so I'm going to kind of breeze by that real fast since it's not really a lot to talk about. The first pre-show match they had was Paragon, Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion El Desperado, and Uemura, Hotstein. I think he's still representing just 5 guys, 4 guys, a Hantai. But he went against Leo Rush, Mario Andretti crew, and the what was it? The Don Callis family of Josh Alexander and Hechicero. I saw Don Callis' mic look like it messed up, so whatever he was really gonna say, we couldn't hear him because they had to give him a different mic. Obviously, he got more FU Callis chants throughout his entire match, but they tried to call this an all-star 8-man tag. I don't know what's so all-star about it. Like, 2 of these guys are not even in this company, and yeah, I don't call it an all-star. And then again, I feel like they were just kind of adding New Japan guys at the last second. Which, like I said, it's the IWGP Junior Champion, but Despy ended up being on commentary later on the show anyways. But basically, Paragon and them got the win. Uemura hit the deadbolt onto Andretti for the win, so they went past that. I guess, what was it? Strong wasn't really happy with O'Reilly. I guess there's a story going on in that, because right after the match, the heels ended up attacking the faces, and Archer was the last one in there. Tomohiro Ishii came out, hit a big brain buster on him. O'Reilly was cool with him, but Strong pulled him away. So I don't know. I feel like one of these two are going to be turning soon, since Strong is kind of getting jealous of O'Reilly out there teaming more with his conglomerate buddies than the Paragon. Next, England's own Michael Oku with Amira. I don't know much about Michael Oku. I know he's over there in Rev Pro. I've probably seen a couple matches. He's pretty good, but I don't have a lot to say about him. But he teamed with Speedball, Mike Bailey, and Kevin Knight to go against Ricochet and the Gates of Agony. Once again, not a lot to say about this other than being a damn spot fest. I thought the pounce that I think it was one of Gates of Agony did on Oku looked pretty brutal. I'll say that. It ended up with the Gates of Agony hitting their finisher onto Michael Oku, and then Ricochet hit his Spirit Gun finisher on him then after that, so they got the pin from there. The next pre-show match, which I swear to God, I feel like this has been on Collision almost several times now at this point. This is really a Collision match right here, because I know I've seen it on there several times. Willow Nightingale, Harley Cameron, I think this may be our first match back. Chris Statlander and Queen Aminata versus the Triangle of Magnus. Magnus. I said Triangle of Magnus. See, that's what my mind is right now. Thinking of a different company. But the Triangle of Madness. Tekla, Julia Hart, and Sky Blue, and Megan Bain. I know Statlander ended up accidentally hitting Willow, so maybe it's going to be some type of storyline progression in this, because Statlander's been acting, too happy-go-lucky with Willow lately, so I'm kind of waiting on the turn on her. But basically, what was it? Megan Bain hit the big power bomb onto Harley Cameron for the win. I know Tekla and Queen Aminata end up just brawling to the back, so we didn't even see them. And we'll get to them later in the show, so watch out for that. Tony Schiavone came out with Owen Hart's family, Dr. Martha Hart, and his son. Basically just talked about the crowd and who's going to win tonight, so it's not really much to say other than just bringing out Owen's family. And then the main event of the pre-show was the Ops. Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Shibata. Kind of odd to see Samoa Joe on a pre-show. Versus Bullet Club War Dogs. I guess Bullet Club finally made it to this show for once on the Forbidden Door. But Clark Connors, Drilla Maloney, and Robbie X with Ghetto. No Finley. Still no David Finley. They can get the rest of the Bullet Club War Dogs here, but they still can't get Finley on this show somehow. And I'm gonna get to a lot of the New Japan stuff later, because like I said, this feels more of an AEW show than it does an AEW New Japan show. And I know about CMLL and Stardom being involved, but I gotta say, man, the lack of New Japan and just last minute stuff from New Japan is just kind of crazy. And you got the Booker of New Japan on this show right here, Ghetto. But the Ops end up winning. Joe hit the Muscle Buster onto Robbie X for the win. So, like I said, that's the pre-show match. Now, as we get into the main show, we got the return of Edge and Christian, which, once I said before, it's a lot of lack of build going into this. So, I think one thing that can be said about this whole storyline is that they rushed the hell out of Edge and Christian being a team again. But you got 1 week Christians just saying, I'm an asshole, I'm not going to help anybody, I'm going to continue what I'm doing. And then like a week or two later, I'm out helping Edge, and now it's like, it's a means to end, a necessary means to end, where it's like, you help me with my problem, I help you with your problem. As my friend Shaggy would say, some people on the internet want to say, oh, we got through all the boring parts, which was the story parts, really, which you want to take time to build the story and build it organically. And then when they, come back together as a team, it'll get a huge pop then, I'm sure, from the crowd. They're doing it in front of, 500 people in Cincinnati like a week or two ago. So, they really could have really waited and built to this going into All Out, since All Out will be in, Toronto, Canada. They could have waited for them to team there, but it's like they really wanted to rush this team to be back at the Forbidden Door. So, once again, it's like a lack of story really going into this. They really should have waited. This feels very rushed. I know some people are going to say they kind of copied, I guess, what TNA's got going on right now with the, Team 3D being back together and then going against the Hardys one more time. So it's like, hey, let's bring back Edge and Christian then once more. So that's kind of what's going on with that. But it is, some people think it's kind of a copycat thing. But going on into this match, though, Edge and Christian went against Kill Switch, the return of Kill Switch. We haven't seen him in over a year, Luchasaurus, and Kip Sabian. Nick Wayne is out with a knee injury. I know he said it last Wednesday on Dynamite, so good to bring Kill Switch back, especially since it fits the story. I enjoyed this match. Obviously, the crowd was very hyped for Edge and Christian. The crowd singing all on the Edge's theme song is just still great to see. I'm not going to try to count every chant throughout this entire show because it's so many chants, you can't even name them all. But I thought the match was a good opener. I thought it was enjoyable. I thought it was just a hot start just to get the crowd going. I know at one point, and I don't know how Kip Sabian bled so bad here from his head, but I think Killswitch, he kept trying to get his tag in. Like, Killswitch just slapped the shit out of him. It looked like it was on his chest, but maybe hit his face then. And he came back all bleeding and everything. I know Edge ended up hitting like a spear to the outside onto Killswitch. Cage, he got up, he took down Sabian, and then I think he kind of like sidestepped, and Edge ended up spearing Sabian in Edge spearing him, and then Christian ended up getting the win for the 3 count. So, yeah, Edge and Christian won here. So, like I said, it was a hot opener. The crowd loved it. I thought the finish was pretty good. So, like I said, obviously this is going to lead into them going to FTR, which I'm going to get to FTR later because it looks like, I guess plans have changed now, since I'm sure a lot of people thought this was probably going to be for the tag titles. But let's move on, though. We then get to the TNT Championship on the line. Kyle Fletcher versus Hiromu Takahashi. I see they actually brought Walker Stewart onto commentary from New Japan, because one thing I did kind of wonder even throughout this show, looking at the commentary, I know Bryan Danielson was on commentary throughout the entire night. I wish they would get rid of Excalibur, but I know they won't when they switch through commentators throughout the night, because I know they weren't going to bring Chris Charlton on here, given what he said back at Wrestle Dynasty and Barry and Tony Khan, and then he got suspended. So I figured he wasn't going to be on this show, but I think Walker Stewart is still a pretty good commentator. I've listened to him on New Japan here and there, so he's not bad. I know a lot of people say he's basically Kevin Kelly's replacement and whatnot, but he's not bad though. Like I said, still not a lot of build going into this. I know Kyle Fletcher said he was looking for the best person in New Japan. I know Hiromu Takahashi, ever since LIJ has been disbanded now at this point, there is no LIJ anymore since Naito and Bushi left the company. basically everybody that's left in LIJ is just doing their own thing now. I know Hiromu's been all over the place. I didn't think Kyle would be going against a junior heavyweight, but this was a good match. Fletcher basically was very dominant throughout this match, putting his arrogance, trying to think he could put Hiromu early, but Hiromu just kind of no-sold it for a minute and kept coming back at him, even hitting the time bomb 2 on him. Fletcher still ended up getting up, hitting a big Canadian destroyer. No, Takahashi did a Canadian destroyer out of reversing it. He's going to go for another time bomb, but Fletcher ended up hitting like a big kick to the back of his head into the corner. He hit another one from the front. He was going for a brain buster, but Hiromu ended up countering it, trying to go for a small package. But Fletcher got out of it and hit a brain buster for the win. So, a good match, though. I will say that. Very good match. Like I said, once again, it's still like a lack of build. But like I said, Fletcher was going to win this. I never saw nobody from New Japan taking any AEW titles throughout this show anyways. But, hey, good to see Hiromu, even though it's kind of weird. I got to say, it's weird not seeing him without LIJ. It really is for some reason. Next was a fatal 4-way for the TBS title. Once again, it's another match with barely any build here. But Mercedes Moné versus Alex Windsor versus Persephone versus Bozilla. I have no idea who Bozilla is. I will say she's a giant and very impressive. Persephone, I feel like I've seen on the Wrestle Dynasty show back in January, so I know a little bit about her. She's from CMLL. I'm sure a lot of people are going to say thick as hell, which I agree. One thing I will say about going into this match, like I said, it's not a lot of really build into this, being it's a fatal 4-way. I know they gave Mercedes a special entrance, so I saw she had a little bit of some NWO font colors, and I guess have the Royal Guard come out with all of her titles, which, I'll say this right now when it comes to all these championships, because to what I've heard now, it's like 9 belts, right? And I got to sit here and I have to ask some people, because whether you're a fan of that, and trust me, I know some stands, I'm not going to name any names here, but what is even the point of all these title belts at this point? Because I know everybody's going to point out, the belt collector gimmick and everything, or saying she's tied with Ultimo Dragon, but I have a question about all these titles, because she won a 9th one, right? But, and I kind of got to take Lance Storm's comments. I actually thought he made some sense here. What is the point of all these championships, and how many people really even know any of these titles? Like, how many people really heard of these titles? I know they're from a whole bunch of different countries, but it's got to be some indie promotion that had 300, 400 people, I'm sure, possibly when this happened. Maybe because she's there, maybe it brought in a few more attendants, but it's like you have to wonder, who did she really beat, and why is this title so important? The only title belts that look like they are important enough throughout this little thing is the TBS one, the CMLL one, even though I thought that was random when she won that too, and the I want to say the Rev Pro one. Those are the only ones I feel important. The Owen Hart one, I don't even know why she's holding the Owen Hart belt at this point anymore. Like, the tournament's over, you had your shot at All In, you lost, so why does she even need to still keep this belt? I know some people have kind of held on to the Owen Hart belt just before they made, it a title shot thing, but I'm sure people remember when, Adam Cole and Britt Baker, but they didn't even hold those belts that long. They probably held them for a few weeks until they just kind of, gave them up, even with Willow and others. It's like they held the titles for a few weeks and then they just went away because it's a tournament thing. So what is the point of even having this Owen Hart belt anymore? You're not defending it. It can't be defended. It was a cash-in type of thing. You got your title shot at All In, and it's over now. So what is the point of this belt? And every other belt is just kind of like I said before, what is the point of all these titles, and how are they really important, and who did she even beat? Because I'm sure no one's ever heard of, and I looked some of these up, what was it, the Queen of the South Side, or some type of title, or some primetime wrestling, or I don't know. And when you think about a past belt collector gimmicks like Kenny Omega, or even Austin Aries to some extent, Omega at least had titles that people actually knew. That's the thing. He had the AEW World title. He had the TNA World Championship. He had the CMLL Mega Championship. And that was only 3 belts. Austin Aries' belts I actually knew a little bit more than whatever Mercedes is holding right here. So when you really sit there and look at this gimmick, it's like, what is really the point of all these title belts? Really sit there and really think about that. Who did she beat? Where was this show even at? And it's like, it's just some small indie promotion. So it's kind of like Lance Storm said, it's comedy a little bit now at this point. So I think it's funny. I'm sure some people are gonna put in the whole creative control aspect. It doesn't work for me, brother. It doesn't work for me, sister. You already know how that line goes. But I think I had this discussion back with Straight Face 40 back at the All In review. We talk about, everybody was talking about this Hogan, Sasha Hogan, Sammy Hogan, but let's be honest, did Hogan need 9 belts to really be over like that? He only needed 1 title. So when you really sit there and try to say Mercedes Hogan and all that, it's like, nah, none of these people can't even really compare up to him. Because did he need 9 belts to get over? To be over like this? No. He needed 1. 2 or 3 is one thing, but 9, it's like, even Ultimo Dragon. I'm sure a lot of people say his titles were more important. And they never made, it was a big deal, but they never pushed it this much of trying to be a big deal. So when you really think about this whole belt collector or whatever title she's collecting at this point, which I think is kind of funny too, you lost it all in, but it's not like it was any other type of character development after that or anything. It's just, oh, let's go win 2 to 3 more belts that nobody has never even heard of. Or even you have to sit there like, who did she beat that was so important? I've already repeated myself several times, but that's a main point in all this. Who did she really beat? So think about that. So I had to say something about that because it's just kind of funny looking at this 9 belt thing at this point. As for the match itself, I'm not surprised who won. I will say that Poison Rana that Monet tried to do on Bozilla looked really bad. And even old Don Stevens there trying to go for the 3 count, which you could clearly kind of see Bozilla kicked out. They messed that up. Like, the match was okay. Like I said, Bozilla looked impressive. Like, what is she, like 6'7" if I'm not mistaken? So she's a giant. They're like a big razor's edge excuse me, because like, what was it, Persephone? She's like a razor's edge on Bozilla, which is pretty crazy. I know it was like they kept hitting like finishers kind of after that. I know it was like a double bank statement out there. I know Persephone tried to go for like the razor's edge on the Monet, but Monet ended up rolling her up and got the win. So, like, come on, we already knew who was gonna win. So Monet won from here. So, like I said, the TBS title is retained, but once again, it's not like really a lot of story was going on into this. Next, they had the IWGP World title on the line, which is kind of funny. This is in the middle of the show, but once again, this is another match with no build. And once I kind of go back to the New Japan stuff, did New Japan even talk about going into the Forbidden Door? Because it's not like they built anything from themselves going into this. Listen, New Japan was more focused with the G1 tournament going on, okay? So there was, and I watched the G1 tournament, all right? They barely even mentioned AEW or the Forbidden Door until probably like a week or 2 before. They were more focused on the tournament. So like I said, this is more of an AEW show. And listen, Zack Sabre Jr. and Nigel McGuinness, I was looking forward to this match. Like I said, it's kind of like a battle of the UK right here. Both from, I guess you could say, different generations and whatnot. And if you want to see some like real great technical wrestling, this is what you're going to see from both of these two, okay? But once again, my friend Shaggy said this to me the day before. It's like it's a bit of a disservice in a way because it's just a lack of build. Nigel McGuinness just won some fatal 4-way on Collision, which I figured he was going to win to get a title shot. Zack Sabre Jr. was more focused within the G1 tournament, never even mentioned Nigel McGuinness even going into this. And I know they had like a big video package from McGuinness with like Johnny Saint out there and everything, talking about technical wrestling and all that stuff, and like Marty Jones. They were sitting in the crowd too. I know they had Danny Garcia with McGuinness coming out. But like I said, McGuinness does his whole entrance. Zack Sabre Jr. comes out, TMDK and everything. And I really did enjoy this match. This was great. I actually enjoyed it. I know some people are not going to be the biggest fan of this style of wrestling. This is more, like I said, this is more of a mat-based technical style of wrestling right here. Okay? So I know a lot of people aren't going to, some people aren't really going to enjoy it this much, but I like the match. I wish there was just more build going into this. And honestly, now, after looking at it, like I said, this really good. Ended up with Zach hitting like the, what was it? What did he do? I know it was like I know it was a counter pin because there was like a lot of counter pins in all of this. And Zach was able to like pin him again and he got the 3 count on him. They both end up shaking hands after the match then. So, like I said, really enjoyable match. But even going into this, who else was Zack Sabre Jr. really going to face going? You know, I feel like one thing with the IWGP World title sometimes, I look at the opponents we got to give it for these Forbidden Door shows, and I feel like the last couple of them, it's been kind of like, man, this is what we're doing with the IWGP champion right here. What was it one year? It was like Sonata versus Jack Perry, and I was like, this is the best you could give Sonata. Like, out of all the top talent, this was the best you could give him. And at least with Zach, it's like, okay, I get it's McGuinness, but it's not like McGuinness even really right. I think they just did this because it was in London. Both of these guys are from the UK. You're gonna get a great technical wrestling match out of them, but it's like, come on now, like who else is really gonna be a viable challenger here? Like who did they even have built up to go against Zach? Like I said, this is just off some fatal 4-way thing. So, like I said, Zach won the match from here. He retained the IWGP World Title. I'm sure, obviously, he'll be facing Takeshita once Wrestle Kingdom comes in January, so watch out for that. For a second there, I actually thought Daniel Garcia was actually going to turn on McGuinness, but he just turned him around and hugged him. And then Tony Schiavone was in the ring with both of them, but they ended up leaving the ring, and Schiavone just basically said this is the largest crowd ever in the O2. I guess they outsold WWE when they were here a few years ago for Money in the Bank, but I guess basically it was 19,000 almost, so they had a big attendance record, but I guess they had a smaller stage too, so I guess they wanted to fit more people into the building this time. Right after that, Thekla and Queen Aminata were brawling. They brawled to the stage. Triangle of Madness ended up attacking Aminata. Next thing you know, Jamie Hayter's music hit. Jamie Hayter's been gone from, basically she was injured this entire time. We haven't seen her in a pretty good while now. Don't even remember the last time. What was it? Last year? Was it Double or Nothing? Maybe she'd been gone for a minute, so she had an injury, but she ended up fighting them off and helping Queen Aminata. So Jamie Hayter was back. Next was the Hurt Syndicate versus FTR versus Brodito of Bandito and Brody King. And man, this was kind of all over the place in a way. One, MVP was not there. Now, I know there's been a lot of rumors in the past week or two about the Hurt Syndicate not wanting to put over anybody. And then apparently MVP had heat with Speedball, but I guess they did a video in the back to prove that there was no heat. But apparently, the Hurt Syndicate didn't want to put over FTR, and they wanted to put over a newer team or something. But I guess they had clashes with creative, and they weren't going to do it. And I thought it was quite telling that MVP was not even there for this show. And I wondered, like, well, where's MVP at? So in a way, you kind of knew the Hurt Syndicate was going to lose anyways, because one, they were never going to get pinned. They were not. The minute this became a triple threat match and just not against FTR, I'm like, okay, Lashley and Shelton will end up obviously losing the titles, but they will not be pinned in this. And given MVP was not there, that was even more telling, like I just said. So you knew they were not going to put over FTR, which, by the way, they didn't even win this match. Okay? They didn't even win this damn. And apparently this is supposed to be an elimination match. They said this on Dynamite last Wednesday. But then it just end up being like a triple threat tag team match. That's all it ended up being. So it just was like a lot of changes going into this match. But, you know, I looked at it. It wasn't bad. I know they had a big showdown with Lashley and Brody King, which the people were going crazy for. And I know it was all over the place. A lot of dives. I know it was like a shatter machine onto like, I think Lashley by Cash and Brody King or something. Or he was Bandito. Bandito doing that fallaway suplex thing off the top rope, which looked very dangerous, by the way. I actually thought he was going to drop dash or, you know, Bandito was going to land on his head, but he just landed on top of everybody with the whole fallaway slam thing. Next thing you know, these two masked guys in New Japan jackets end up attacking the Hurt Syndicate, then fighting them on the stage. Dax had a chair, and what did he do? He hit Brody King straight up in the head. No, it was Cash, I believe. No, Dax. He hit Brody King right in the head. I guess we're doing steel chair shots to the head again. Onto Brody King, which I was surprised he even kicked out of this. I'm like, this dude just got hit in the head straight up with a chair. Damn near unprotected chair shot to the head, too, and just kicked out. And, you know, he kicks out, and then it ended up being Ricochet and them. They end up unmasking themselves, so they're the ones that beat up the Hurt Syndicate. And then here's even crazier. What Brody King, like, what was it? Bandito was like going for some jump, and Brody King kind of like, had an assist, like kicking Bandito into the air, and he got the fall onto Dax. But then like the refs counted, and I guess Cash was supposed to like break it up, but you could clearly see the referee count the two, and then he did the count again all the way to three. So the timing of the finish was already messed up too. So I felt like a lot of this match was just going all over the place. So, like I said, I did not even expect Brodito to even win the tag team title. So now Bandito's now the Ring of Honor World Champion and AEW Tag Team Champion. I thought not the Hurt Syndicate, but I actually thought FTR was going to win this, and they were going to be facing Edge and Christian for the tag titles at All Out in Canada. But obviously that's not going to happen now. So Brodito winning is very kind of random, because honestly I thought they were taking the pinfall. I was like, okay, this is going to be a triple threat tag team match. Basically like it was all in a triple threat tag team match. Obviously the team that has really not much to do with the story is going to be taking the pinfall, right? But no, they're the ones to end up winning the tag titles. So, like I said, the Hurt Syndicate, I guess you could even kind of say the rumors are a little bit true with that now, that they just they were not going to put over FTR, look like, straight up, or any team it looks like. So, like I said, they lost, but they weren't even involved in the finish. So, like I said at the beginning of this whole match, they were never going to get pinned. And MVP, like I said, MVP wasn't even here. So that was already telling enough. So hopefully now maybe Bobby Lashley can move on to like the main event or towards the World Championship now. One would hope to see that, but we'll see. But I guess they're going to be ending up feuding with Ricochet in the Gates of Agony. So we'll see where that goes then. Next they had the AEW Unified Championship on the line. Swerve Strickland, Mr. Terrific. I did like the gear he came out with versus Kazuchika Okada. Once again, lack of build going into this match, and this is where I feel like after the whole ZSJ match, everything was just an AEW show at this point. Like I said, going into this review, New Japan was barely ever involved. No, I'm repeating myself, but it's almost like New Japan just happened to be featured on this show. They were never really on this show. No, like literally nobody. Like when you really think about it, like it's like you didn't even see these important teams. I know it's a lot of factions in New Japan. No other TMDK, not a lot of Bullet Club, even though it was in the pre-show, or I guess you could say Hontai, or I guess the United Empire. I'm trying to just name all the groups here, but just like I said, just going to this match though. Jim Ross was actually on commentary for this too, so good to see him back out there. I enjoyed the match, and listen, I figured Swerve was not going to win since the commentary team, and I guess in the past few weeks they've been talking about Swerve's knee, but then again, you kind of forget this match was even happening on this show, because we barely saw these two really have any type of interaction with each other, and it was just like video packages. Unless something happened on Collision, I don't know, I don't watch Collision anymore, but once again, there was really no build going into this, but it wasn't a bad match, I'll say that, but I knew Swerve was not going to win here. Like I said, I know they had Okada trying to focus on Swerve's knee multiple times. I know Okada went for a Rainmaker, Swerve got the way. Swerve was going for a house call, which he ended up hitting the house call in, and he was going to go for another house call, but Okada ducked it, hit the Rainmaker, and pinned Swerve clean. So Okada still retained the unified title, which, let's be honest, he wasn't going to lose this anyways. I actually thought it was going to be a whole bunch of screwy distractions and all of this, but it wasn't. And given that he just won it all in, you knew he wasn't going to lose, and like I said, AEW they've been talking about Swerve's knee injury and everything, so you knew he wasn't going to win. And then after the match, Okada attacked Swerve's knee after that, put him into the ring steps, and then taking a chair and beating him with it. Prince Nana came out with a steel pipe then, backing off Okada and Callis then, but next thing you know, Wardlow. We have not seen Wardlow, and I want to say damn near over a year at this point. Shit, last time I heard about him, he's supposed to be on American Gladiator, so he returned, attacked Prince Nana, and I guess now he's with the Don Callis family, which this is too many people in the Don Callis family at this point. And I gotta say one thing of Wardlow, too. The last time we saw Wardlow, he was in a group. Now it's funny, he's back again, and now he's in another group. So, Wardlow, I don't even understand his booking anymore. It's like he can only be a henchman now at this point. And I guess everybody accepted him into the group, and Takeshita came out, which he had a face-to-face with Wardlow, and he nodded his head. But he obviously doesn't trust him. But it's like it's too many people in this group now when you look at it. Because let's kind of count all the people. You got Okada, you got Kyle Fletcher, you got Takeshita, you got Josh Alexander, you got Hechicero, you got Lance Archer, you got Rocky Romero, and now you got Wardlow. And I'm like my friend Shaggy, like, you don't need all these people. It's almost like we're relying on the Don Callis family to get everybody over, it looks like. But man, how many people we gonna keep adding to this group? The only ones that really matter, and I quote my friend Shaggy from this, is that you only need Takeshita, Kyle, Okada, even though I never felt like he needed to be, I thought he was in the elite. And Josh, that's kind of all you need. And I guess Wardlow now too, but it's like, how many people we gonna keep adding to this group? Oh yeah, I forgot you even got Trent Beretta. I forgot about him in this. So we're just adding more people in this group like it's no tomorrow. But it's just kind of funny with Wardlow. Like the last time we saw him, he was a henchman. Now he's back to me in a henchman. So makes you wonder. Next, the AEW Women's Championship was on the line. Toni Storm versus the Ring of Honor Women's Champion, Athena, who cashed in her contract that she won back at All In. I enjoyed this match. I knew it was going to be great anyways. It's good to just even see Athena even back on AEW and television now, which honestly I knew she wasn't going to win given that she pinned Toni Storm like a few weeks ago on Dynamite, so you already knew it was going to happen. Obviously, Billy Starks kept getting involved in this match, even, distracting Toni Storm several times. I don't even know what Toni Storm's gear was, but I guess she was supposed to be like something in the UK with like some white face paint and a wig and stuff. I didn't know what that was about. I know Starks got involved, which, what was it? Athena ended up hitting her old face move, like while she was on the apron then, and even trying to try to power drop on the steps again, but Toni Storm was able to get out of it. Starks tried to get involved again, but Mina Shirakawa got out there and basically fought her off to the back because she got a chair. Storm was going for the Storm Zero and everything, but Athena got out of it. I know she got to hit another O-face then. But next thing you know, they both kept trading pins several times. Athena tried to go for the O-face again, but Storm ended up countering it and hit a chicken wing for the submission, where she made Athena tap out. Didn't expect Athena to tap out. That was actually kind of surprising. I thought she'd probably just take a pinfall here, but I figured Toni Storm was going to win this match anyways. Like I said, Athena already pinned her, so you already know that was going to go. So this was still a really good match, though, that I enjoyed. And stuff. So, like I said, Toni Storm retained. Hopefully, hopefully now from this point, Athena does stay on AEW television and not just sitting back the Ring of Honor purgatory. Because at this point, I don't even know how long she's had the Ring of Honor women's title. Somebody said it was going damn near on 1,000 this point. I think it's over 900 days, but you have to wonder who the hell's really in Ring of Honor that she's even beaten anyway. So, I don't know, but honestly, now I kind of hope she just loses the Ring of Honor one and just stays on Dynamite at this point, so we actually see her on this show. But like I said, we'll see what happens from that. But still, an enjoyable match. Next was the AEW World Title on the line. Hangman Page versus MJF. MJF still has his contract because he was almost going to set Mark Briscoe on fire, and he made Hangman give in to his demands, being a no disqualification match also. So even if MJF loses this match, his contract was still going to be intact. That he can still keep his contract and cash in at any time. Which, let's be honest, we knew MJF was not going to win in this. And yeah, you could say it's a lot of overbooking in this main event. My bad, it's not even the main event of the show. But this world title match went basically damn near, 30 minutes? I'm not mistaken. And like I said, you saw both of these guys bleed within this match. MJF was just trying to do anything to cheat his way. Like I said, I think it was, like I said, it's a no DQ, I think it was supposed to be, or I could be wrong here, but what was it? These guys fought to the floor. Hangman Page catching MJF and like a moonsault or something, but I think was like a tombstone in, and both of them on the ground in. I know they ended up fighting on the apron. I know Hangman gave Page like a dead eye through a table. There was a table set up, so he had a dead eye through the table, which he tried to pin MJF, but MJF put his foot on the rope. He set up for the buckshot, but MJF rolled onto the floor at the end and ended up was in a chair, but Hangman ran towards him, but he ended up crashing to some steps. I think what happened. He threw him to the steps, and MJF was yelling at Danielson after that, which Hangman was blading then, because I think he tombstone them onto that broken table, by the way, too. So, like, he hit a tombstone power driver onto the broken table, which didn't even break, and he bled then, and the ref counted, but Hangman got in before the 10 count. MJF, he got hit into, like, the turnbuckle, I think, which was the pad was off. So he started bleeding in everywhere after that. Both these guys are just trading shots back at each other. Fans chanting, this is awesome. They start going for tombstones then. They start going for 1-2 counts then after that, which, the crowd starts chanting, fight forever then. Hangman hits a dead eye on him. But NJF goes for, like, the diamond ring, which, by the way, the ref was even down at one point. But I guess he just magically was able to get up after a while and catch MJF doing his tricks then. He stops him from doing his little, like, diamond ring thing, which I don't know why I kept saying no disqualification. It is a disqualification, but we've seen tables get involved. But, the ref stopped him from the ring then, and MJF even spin it Page, hit him in the nuts then after that. Hangman tried to go for, like, a buckshot, but MJF used the referee as a weapon, and then low-blowed MJF after. Low-blowed Hangman after. Hits his Heat Seeker power driver, but it is a 3 count. But Hangman's foot is on the rope. Mark Briscoe comes out then, and then security takes him to the back. And then MJF goes to, like, I guess he tried to go for the pin again, but the ref saw his foot on the rope, so he removed his foot. So the match is restarted now. So they restart the match. MJF is still trying to go after Hangman. He stops the buckshot then and tries to shield the referee. And then MJF, he ends up hitting Hangman the nuts again. And then he went to go get the AEW World title. By the way, I forgot MJF was the CMLL World Champion, so I guess I forgot to mention that. But MJF, he tries to use the world title as a weapon, but the ref stops him, and then he gets his casino contract, case, it's still bored and whatnot, and he hits Hangman in the face with it, which is still a kick out then. He goes back for the diamond ring, but the ref stops him from there. And then when the referee is distracted, Hangman hits him with the contract page, like, steel board then after that, and he hit the buckshot and won the match. So, yes, you could definitely say there's a lot of overbooking within the main event of this sorry, not even the main event, just for the world title match of this show. I keep thinking it's the main event for some reason, but like I said, Hangman won. I'm not surprised he won. Obviously, MJF still has his contract, so he will cash in at some point. He will cash in. Listen, the crowd ate this up. They ate this whole match up because there was just a lot of wild overbooking stuff going on in the end of MJF just doing the most he could to cheat his way to win, but MJF could not do it, and Hangman won. So MJF obviously will at some point cash in on whoever will be the world champion at that point. Maybe it's Hangman, I don't know, because it's not like he's with the Hurt Syndicate anymore since they kind of rushed through that storyline now, and I guess he still is fighting Mark Briscoe, so at some point, not Hangman, but MJF will cash in on him. But in the main event of this show, we got the Lights Out Steel Cage match. Basically, some would say like War Games. Now, the Steel Cage in this match looks like the one in New Japan where they call it the Dog Pound Steel Cage match. Basically, it's a big cage that's kind of like Hell in a Cell, but it's not Hell in a Cell, and it's not really like any type of escape. There's just no roof on it, but it's like a bigger cage, though. And I know they go through everybody's entrance. Brian Danielson left he left ringside area because given that of the beef he has with some of these people in this match, he excused himself from commentary. So I guess they were just left with JR, Excalibur, and I guess Shivani was on commentary too. And like I said, this is a 5-on-5 match. Okay, so it's basically Will Ospreay, which I know he had a big narration because it's England, it's his home country, and he wanted to make sure he did this match before he went and got surgery, because I thought he actually had the surgery already. He said he'd be back for Forbidden Door, but I guess he was healthy enough to compete before he goes off into surgery, but, he gets a big entrance, obviously. I guess his, like, girlfriend, Alex Windsor, narrate the whole thing, but like I said, Will Ospreay, Hiroshi Tanahashi, which this will be his final match in the UK since he's on his retirement tour right now. Kota Ibushi, Kenny Omega, which, by the way, no build for Kenny Omega coming back to this show. He just happened to be in the Steel Cage match just because. No build going in for him coming back. And Darby Allin, which I like to call the New Japan All-Star Team, and Darby Allin versus the Death Riders of Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli. the Young Bucks and Gabe Kidd, which he's back from an injury because he could not compete in the G1. But somehow he's able to come back for this big steel cage match since he's been out with a bum knee out of the whole tournament for the whole months. But, he's been here. He's back to do this crazy, insane, dangerous cage match. And I guess he's healed from his knee injury. I know they had the Young Bucks coming out to Hanson, I guess. So they're still doing the whole gimmick of them not being EVPs and a lot of comedy stuff in it and being jobbers and stuff. But listen, I'm not going to try to name everything within this match because obviously you was going to get... It's a spectacle of violence, basically. Do I think this was more of a bigger spectacle than what I saw back at Double or Nothing with the Anarchy in the Arena? No, but there was still a lot of insane, crazy shit within this match, okay? Because all these guys just start going back and forth with each other. I know for some reason they put gummy bears in the ring, which the Young Bucks were pissed because, we got to add the comedy aspect. I know both these guys start hitting each other with, like, chairs and kendo sticks. Darby Allin, who was bleeding from his ear. By the way, Claudio just threw him into the cage and he just bounced off of it like crazy. And then next thing you know, Darby's bleeding from his ear. There's like a hole in his ear. And then they tie up Darby Allin with duct tape to a chair like this is Reservoir Dogs or something. And Moxley just takes a fork and just jams it into his ear, which looked crazy and disgusting. But Darby's a madman, so he's just getting stabbed, and the fork's going through his ear and stuff, which is insane. I know the Bucks end up putting a barbed wire table into the ring. I know Tana ended up, I know he went for his dragon screw stuff, but then he threw Moxley into, like, the barbed wire table, which... I'll be honest, I actually forgot Tanahashi was in this match half the time, which then again, I'm sure a lot of people are going to say the way he kind of moves right now, you can understand why he is on his last year of wrestling. He's been in the G1 tournament this whole time, but, he throws him into the table. I know the Bucks end up hitting the BTE trigger on the Tana. Ospreay comes out taking at the Bucks then. Him and Omega do like a combo, like, I called it like the hidden trigger in a way. Like, it's like a V trigger and a hidden blade at the same time on the Gabe Kidd, which was pretty crazy. Omega did like a one-wing angel on the Moxley, but he just immediately kind of rolls out of the ring after that. He's bleeding from his head then after that. I know they had some ladders set up then within this match, which, by the way, Tanahashi was going to climb up one of the ladders and jump, I guess, but Kota Ibushi and them stopped Tana, like, no, don't do that. So they just sent, like, Ospreay or Darby up to just climb the cage so one of them can jump on to everybody then. So I guess they don't, like, no, Tana, you got to finish out your year strong. We don't want you getting hurt by doing some crazy move in this. So I thought it was pretty funny for some reason. But I know at one point Yuta tried to climb up the cage then. I know he had a whole bunch of tables set on the outside. And, like, Moxley climbs over the cage and Darby ends up grabbing Yuta. And he drops him onto, like, the Japanese announce table, which the table did not break, by the way, too. So I am the table. But Desperado got knocked down since he was on the Japanese commentary table. But Darby starts chasing after Moxley then. And I know they fight to the outside of the stacked table. And I guess Darby was going to do a big coffin drop. But Gabe Kidd climbed up the ladder. He low-blowed Darby. And they're on top of, like, the cage. And they both fall through the stack of tables, by the way. It looks like... Gabe took more of that fall than Darby because at least Darby just kind of landed on top of him. But that was just an insane spot then. Ospreay hits like the Stormbreaker on the Claudio then after that. And then like Omega and V-Trigger, they do like the... what was it? No, it was like Omega and Bushi, they do like the V-Trigger onto one of the Bucks then. And then Omega, like he hits like the... He picks up Matt Jackson, and this is another combo move here, but it's basically a hidden blade and a one-wing angel, which I called it the hidden angel in a way. Takes out Matt Jackson, and then Tanahashi, he hits the high fly flow for the win and gets the pinfall from here. In a way, it's fitting for Tanahashi. Like I said, he's on his final year in wrestling right now. He won't retire till Wrestle Kingdom, so he got one more big win in the UK, and then right after, all the heels kind of get out of Dodge, but... all the faces in the ring then, and, they start kind of raising the cage. Everybody's, celebrating and stuff. As everybody, celebrates in the ring and they're ready to leave then after that. I know they help Darby onto his feet then to get in the ring. Ospreay kind of stayed back after he shook everybody's hand and took in, like, just the applause of the crowd, because this is the final time you're going to see Ospreay for a while. Like, we already know Ospreay is going to be gone after this match, which here's what doesn't make sense in a way, since this thing. We saw Ospreay come out several weeks ago, talk about his neck. He has to get surgery. He's going to be gone for a very long time, and he wanted to make sure he made it to Forbidden Door before he went away for a while, which he did. And he's going to be gone for a pretty long time now. Don't know when he's coming back, but he's going to be gone. But as he's kind of like soaking in the applause and stuff, next thing you know, the heels get back in the ring. They start fighting everybody off, and Moxley just hitting Ospreay with multiple Death Riders and then wrapping his head in a chair around his neck and stuff. And Moxley steps on it and everything. And then you got the Ops trying to come out to help and stuff. And, they can't get in the ring. And then once they lift up the cage, the Death Riders ran up out of there then. As, like, all the faces. I don't know why I felt like Tana and Ibushi were just kind of standing around, not even trying to get in the cage to go help Ospreay. But, next thing you know, like I said, the faces end up getting the ring, checking on Ospreay, which, when you really think about it, it's like, this was to write him off TV. We understand that. Ospreay is already hurt, so they did an injury angle. Did you really need to do an injury angle when we already know he's hurt, but he's only healthy enough to do this match? So we still did an injury angle to write him off TV anyways. So I don't know why, but something about that is just kind of weird. It's like, we know he's already hurt. We know he has to get surgery. So we knew he was going to be gone after this match. But I guess they need to give him something to come back to and fight Moxley and them. Whenever, like I said, we don't know when Ospreay will be back. But this was just to write him off TV. But at the same time, though, did we really need an angle knowing he was already going to be gone? Like, they could have just ended it off with Ospreay just looking at the crowd and waving to everybody and saying, like, hey, guys, this isn't goodbye, but I'll see you later. They probably could have did that. But they got to give Ospreay something to come back to. But overall, this whole show, I'm going to say this. I didn't think the matches were bad. I didn't think this was a bad show. It was good matches, but this goes to my point back in the beginning of this whole review. This was a lack of a build. Yeah, I know you had All In last month. I understand that. But there was really not a lot of build going into this show for multiple matches. I don't even want to say this whole Forbidden Door concept is even an AEW New Japan show type of thing anymore. This was more of an AEW show. This was like AEW show featuring New Japan Pro Wrestling. That's what it was. And maybe a sprinkle of Stardom and CMLL and all of this. So, and then again, you know how AEW shows go. It's a marathon. You're going to be watching this damn near all day. Now, by the time the show went off of me, it was probably about 4:30 p.m. Like, the main show came on at 12 o'clock, but it didn't go off till like 4:30. So, once again, you kind of get that marathon. It wasn't as long as All In. All In was damn near 7-8 hours. That was a long-ass show. That shit didn't go off till like 7:30, 8 o'clock p.m. That was long. And given that, I guess AEW nowadays is just competing with WWE now with shows on the same day because NXT had one. But given how early this started in the day, NXT wasn't until later. But hey, they got to compete with WWE next month anyways against that WrestlePalooza thing and All Out. So it looks like nowadays they just kind of WWE's just purposely putting shows on the same day as AEW. So I don't know. It's just kind of crazy, especially how WWE is moving right now at ESPN. But that's a different subject for another time. But like I said, I look at this show, it wasn't bad. I enjoyed the matches, but it's a lack of build, and New Japan just happens to be there. And yeah, you got your hardcore matches here and there, and the cage match and everything else, but some of this was pretty predictable in some ways. The only other noteworthy things I can kind of count out of this show is what? Wardlow came back after God knows how long he's been gone. You got new tag champions, which I'm only surprised by that because I thought FTR was gonna win. Like I said, it's not like I don't know. It's just kind of everything was kind of predictable, really. Like you really knew who was gonna win, and I don't have a lot of important stuff to really kind of count out of this, other than just maybe some crazy hardcore stuff here and there too. But and Edge and Christian, back as a team again. But like I said, this is more of an AEW show than a joint co-promotion with New Japan Pro Wrestling. And even I have to say, like, by God, you have the IWGP world title on here. And that's like in the middle of the show. You think that'd be like a co-main event or something, or New Japan would have had something built up into this, but no, you don't even have that too. And like I said, the main event was based like a War Games, or even like what TNA did with the Lethal Lockdown matches. It's just except with a bigger cage and like I said, it's like the dog pound steel cage match. But you have to really want it. It's like I said, hell, where were all the big New Japan stars at? You don't even have a lot of those on here. I know they've been in a rebuilding process, so I know New Japan has been on a different thing right now and trying to build up people. Like I say, you got Takeshita to win the G1. Honestly, I wish they would have had a stare down with Takeshita and Zack Sabre Jr. Even though these two have already faced each other in the G1 tournament twice, but you got to start off that build to Wrestle Kingdom, I guess. But I don't know. But like I said, this show to me, it was just good matches and stuff, but like I said, it's another marathon. No build, not a lot of build to this. So, like I said, those are the main two things you're going to be hearing me repeating myself in all of this show. So, that's all I really got to say about, AEW New Japan Forbidden Door. So, yeah. Other than that, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at HoodieKnight890. I'm out of here. I'll see you guys then. Peace. And I don't know when the next review will be, but I guess it's going to be for All Out. So, we'll see what happens. Other than that, I'm out of here. See you then. Follow me on Twitter, HoodieKnight890. I'm repeating myself. See you guys later. Peace out.